Helicopters are terrific machines. They'll allow you to go many places you normally wouldn't be able to go. Meet a lot of schedules. That's why I enjoy flying them. But like any machine, there's a right way and a wrong way to use it. You've all heard the phrase contributing factors. Most often this means a number of events can occur which would put a flight in harm's way. Sometimes these events, weather for instance, can be unpredictable or unavoidable. But more often than not, at least some of these events are the results of bad decisions made by the wrong person and maybe for the wrong reasons. Let me tell you a story. Not long ago, a corporate helicopter, very much like this one, had been scheduled for maintenance. There were no major problems, just routine items and an intermittent fuel gauge. But the company's new president wanted to use it for a survey of potential new plant sites. In his words, why have a helicopter if it's not available when you need it? The maintenance was postponed. The helicopter was assigned to fly. In the pilot's opinion, the day had started badly and was going downhill fast. He'd had a difficult flight yesterday and was tired. Now today's unexpected flight, complete with an unreliable fuel gauge, passengers who were already 45 minutes late, and a forecast of deteriorating weather later in the day. When the executives finally arrived, the CEO wanted to go right now. It was his first helicopter flight. He was nervous and in no mood to be told anything by anybody, particularly about fuel gauges. He summed it up as, we either have fuel or we don't. If we don't, get some. We are behind schedule. Things didn't improve when the pilot discovered he was expected to fly to the locations to be surveyed from descriptions in an engineering report and a local road map, neither of which bore any resemblance to his aeronautical charts. After 3 frustrating hours of trying to find the new plant locations, the mood in the cabin had turned from anxious to angry. As predicted, the weather had started to deteriorate. Fog and rain were moving into the area, and things reached a peak when the pilot was unable to communicate with the company dispatcher. That was that. The CEO was quite clear. The locations are no damn good, helicopters are no damn good, and you people have cost me a whole day. Forget about going back to headquarters. Take me to our Glendale assembly plant now. Since Glendale was located in the general direction of the worsening weather, the pilot would have normally suggested diverting to an alternate landing site. But from the tone of the CEO's comments, he suspected that would not be acceptable. So the subject of a different destination was never broached. Besides, he had his hands full trying to figure out exactly how to get to the assembly plant. And with the unexpected diversion, fuel was beginning to be a concern. "22 minutes later, the flight had still not reached the Glendale plant, and the pilot estimated they had 15 minutes of fuel remaining. Ten minutes later, air traffic control received this message.
Mayday, 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 November 202 Sierra X-ray, inadvertent IFR.
It was the last transmission. Are helicopters inherently dangerous? Of course not. This situation should never have happened. Let me make it clear that the ability and judgment of the pilot are not in question. The company's operating procedures are. They placed the pilot in a position that was both perhaps beyond his own ability and the ability of his equipment. Let's look at the facts. The pressure to postpone the maintenance was a clear indication that top management didn't understand the necessity of a preventative maintenance program. In the wrong environment, a question or a suggestion by a corporate executive can become an order by the time it reaches the person who is most affected by it. An environment that a safety-motivated manager would never have allowed to exist. It is also important that managers understand that they must delegate the authority to make safety-related decisions to professional pilots. In other words, they must empower pilots to make all decisions that could affect the safety of a flight. In this case, since there was no company policy that made this clear, 5 mistakes were made. First, the pilot was briefed on their original destination from material not intended to be used for navigation. If he'd been notified in advance, a proper flight plan could have been prepared. A mistake that became even more significant when the CEO ordered the unexpected en route diversion to the Glendale assembly plant. Second, the go determination may or may not have been a mistake. However, when it became a management decision, the pilot was pushed to take off with a fuel gauge he wasn't certain he could depend on. Third, the issue of crew rest was totally ignored. Fatigue can be debilitating, and tired flight crews can make mistakes. Next, when the weather conditions worsened and the fuel situation was uncertain, the idea of diverting to an alternate was not suggested because of the climate created by the CEO. A situation that developed because the pilot was intimidated by an over-aggressive executive who had neither the background or the knowledge to make a reasoned decision. A man who made time, not safety, the primary consideration. Finally, although the pilot was instrument qualified and the helicopter was equipped for instrument flight, he may not have been confident of his ability. Corporate management can contribute to a safety-oriented operating environment by ensuring that pilots have access to recurring training necessary to stay on top of current instrument procedures, navigating procedures, new techniques, and new equipment. As I said before, the situation was an accident looking for a place to happen. But if there's one thing I'd like to impress on you, most accidents don't need to happen. The bottom line is every flight has a chain of events that ultimately determine its success or failure. And any executive pressure to manage a flight, even if only implied, can have serious consequences. Corporate executives must not be the weak link that put a flight at risk by imposing requirements that exceed the capabilities of the pilot or the aircraft. It's up to you to take the responsibility for creating a safety program that emphasizes the goal of 0 accidents. Remember, safety starts at the top, in the vertical dimension.